Well, hello everybody. How are you guys doing? Hope you guys are having a wonderful, great, and amazing day. Today, we are very, very excited because in addition of our co-host, David DiMaggio and Diane Peñalosa, we have a very special guest. We have María José Romo Palafox. She studied in Mexico City. Then she got her doctor's degree in Texas, and now she took a post degree in Connecticut, correct?
Yes, yes. And I am now a professor in St. Louis University.
Oh, awesome. And she's a professor now, so great. So how's it going right now in Missouri?
We're doing good. A couple of storms and getting ready to start classes this Monday. So yeah.
Well, then we're lucky. We got a one-on-one with the teacher, and you know what? I was reading your bio, and I was then looking at your picture, and I was like, OMG, was she born smart, or how did she get all these degrees? Because you are very young, you know, and you look great, and with all the degrees, I was just so impressed with your background. So thank you very much for making us some time, because we know that you're a very important lady. So we want to appreciate it, you know. And I don't know, let me pass the time to Diane Peñalosa. Please go ahead.
Okay. Well, Maria, I am mother of a 4-year-old girl, and I have realized that she don't like eat meat. She tells she only eats vegetables and legumes. So my question is, should I insist that she eats meat, or a vegetarian diet is good for kids?
Well, there's multiple answers to that question. The first one is children, when they're between 3 and 5, the part of their cognitive development is establishing independence. They're to understand that they are not you. And so they're starting to set boundaries and play with that. And food is a part of that. So between 3 and 5, children go through a phase of, I only want to eat one thing, or I don't want to eat that. And so a lot of moms and a lot of parents say, oh, but my child ate everything. And then they turn 3 and they only want to eat one thing. And as parents, it becomes a little like unnerving, but it's part of what they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be pushing their boundaries and finding who they are and what they like. And so what's really interesting is what children between 3 and 5 like in terms of food usually predicts what they like for the rest of their lives. So a child that really likes bananas is a child that will eat bananas, and a child that really likes yogurt will eat yogurt the rest of their lives. So so that's part of it. The part of it is it's normal for them to say, I don't want to eat meat. When they're 3 to 5, they also don't understand what healthy means. Healthy is an abstract concept. It's not an objective thing. Getting sick is objective, but being healthy is it's an abstract concept. So they don't understand. So when we tell a 3-year-old, eat this because it's healthy, they hear, okay, to process that information. And so, so what we usually do is offer them a playtime with food where we're going to explore. What is this texture? What does this taste like? What does this feel in your mouth? How does your tummy feel after you eat that? Is it crunchy? All of those are objective things that they can relay back to you, right? So so that's part of what you can start doing is offer different things and oh, I'm going to try this too. Oh, I don't like it. Do you like it? Right? So make sure that it's something that doesn't establish good or bad, right or wrong. As much as it's not wrong to not like purple and like yellow better, it's not wrong to not like meat. We just need to make sure we provide them with a variety and let them explore, right? Now, in terms of vegetarian diets, So when you say meat, is it red meat? Is it poultry and fish as well? What about eggs? What about yogurt? So there are different levels of vegetarian diet, right? So there is ovo-lacto-vegetarian, so they eat eggs and dairy. And then there's only lacto-vegetarians who only eat dairy. And then there's vegans who don't consume any products that have been produced by an animal. So that includes honey, for example, right? So here's a problem with nutrition. We want a simple answer. We want a recipe that tells us eat these things and you'll be okay. And it doesn't exist. So research has looked at children being vegetarian. And some studies say it's fine. Some studies say it's harmful to some extent. So we don't know, we don't have consensus. What we do know is that the problem is usually iron, vitamin B12, sometimes protein depending on the rest of the diet. Iodine is another thing that might be a little bit of an issue. So what you do when you have a child that is pushing towards vegetarian is start seeing if they will consume dairy. And then you progress to see if they'll consume fish or chicken or other types of cuts of meat, for example, different preparations. When they're 3 to 5, usually texture is the first thing that makes them like or not like. The next thing is flavor. When they're older, flavor becomes number one, but at this age, it's texture. So make it dry instead of chewy or crunchy, right? That's why playing helps you understand what they want. So the important thing with diets, or the way I look at them, is it's a gamut of colors. You start with, like, there's the diet where you end up in the hospital, and then there's a perfect diet that does not exist. What we want to do is push ourselves towards the perfect as much as we can, knowing that we'll never reach it, right? So providing your child, if your child wants to be a vegetarian, then you can work with it, pushing them towards the healthiest that you can without fighting. So the most important part also at this age is to make sure that meals don't become a fight, that they don't associate negative feelings with eating, that you don't end up, you know, creating really a negative relationship with your child. Because when they grow out of this space of not liking certain foods because they're asserting their independence, you already made it a bad food, right? So the idea is to make it fun. Oh, you don't want to eat that? Okay, why not? Well, I do like it, right? And then offer things, even if they don't like them. Children will be very curious. If you always eat something, eventually they'll try to reach it and try them themselves. And maybe try it out. But they're exploring, they're learning. It takes about 21 tries of a new food to like it when you're young. So 21 times they might say no to avocado. And then on the 22nd, they're like, oh, actually, yeah, I do like it. So the easiest way is have avocado on your plate and they will try it from you, right? So you're trying to get them to know your family diet.
Awesome.
Let me see if there's anything else. So the only thing that I would just be a little bit careful with is if there's no red meat, no chicken, and no fish, make sure with your pediatrician that their iron levels are normal, that there's no problem with B12 or iodine, and you might need a supplement if there's a problem. But usually it's hard to reach a deficiency level when you live in a middle income, developed-ish country, right? We see deficiencies in lower income populations. We see deficiencies in certain countries. So it really, the fear of your child being undernourished is real, and it's hard to like deal with it, but at the end of the day, it's not that easy to be deficient. Our bodies have backup mechanisms for the backup mechanisms. Like it takes a while for your body to deplete. Certain nutrients are a little bit easier, but I think the lesson is we don't need to be that like stressed about nutrients. We just need to tell our doctor, our pediatrician, look, this is what's happening with my child, and they will keep an eye out for the symptoms just in case.
Well, I love your advices. Thank you very much. So I wrote 3 books on mother foods. In my books, I recommend paying extra attention to good nutrition before pregnant. So please share with us some foods are essential for a woman who are pregnant now, and what nutrition should they avoid in pregnancy?
You know, that's also, pregnancy is fascinating because by the time a woman knows she's pregnant, she's usually 3 weeks, 4 weeks in, right? And a lot of the things that happen in those 4 weeks are the most important for your child's growth and for the embryo to be healthy. So that is why we do prenatal supplementation, because it's the body that the woman has the moment the embryo implants, not when you notice you're pregnant. By the time you notice, a lot of things had already happened. So it's important for women in that are sexually active and that are in childbearing age to make sure that they're eating enough calcium. Folic acid is a big concern. There's a couple of others, but so that's the first thing, right? So if you're thinking of getting pregnant, prepare your body, because the body, the moment you get pregnant, is important as well. And then once you're pregnant, so there's, let me start with the nose. So there's no nutrient that you have to avoid. The only like molecule you try to avoid is mercury. So a lot of fish, just because of what they consume in the sea, have higher mercury levels. So you try to avoid those fish. Usually salmon is fine, tuna is fine. There's a long list. So again, if you eat one fish that has a high mercury level one day, you're not gonna die and your baby's not gonna die. But try to choose the ones with the lower ones. And then all of the other things that they tell us not to eat when we're pregnant is because they have a higher risk of having foodborne illnesses. So they might have parasites, they might have bacteria, they might have got rotten or gotten spoiled, right? And our bodies before pregnancy and after pregnancy can deal with that infection, and the consequences for mom is not that bad. When you're pregnant, the consequences of foodborne illness can actually affect the fetus. And so that's why they tell you no raw fish, no raw meat, no dairy, no raw eggs. So like homemade mayo, you would try to avoid. But you see how it's all the food that gets rotten easy? Yeah. It's the we usually think of that could get spoiled or could have bacteria, right? So those are the things that we try to avoid. And that's the reason. It's not because there's something wrong with the food. It's because the likelihood of a raw egg having salmonella is pretty high. High enough that you want to avoid it when you're pregnant. So what you do want is you want to make sure you have, so DHA is an essential fatty acid. And you can find that in fatty fish. So salmon has DHA. That's one of the things you want to make sure you have. Iron, so you have lean meats, poultry, fish, and green leafy vegetables have iron. Iodine, so milk and cheese have iodine, and they also have calcium. So it's something that you want to include in your diet. Just make sure that it's not soft cheese, because soft cheeses get spoiled easier, right? Then, for example, Parmesan can be outside for a while and doesn't spoil. That's kind of the reason why. And the other thing is, remember that you're pushing towards the healthiest, but you don't need to meet your nutrients every single day, right? Someday you eat a lot of vitamin C and it gets stored, and maybe that'll last you for a week. And then another day you eat iron, and another day, right? So it doesn't have to be that you meet all your requirements every day. You just need to make sure to add different things into your diet so you keep that balance.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Well, there are children who do not like fruit. A pediatrician told me that fruits were not essential food for kids. Could you tell me about the consequences of not eating fruit during childhood?
You know, fruit and vegetables share a lot of their qualities. So they both come from plants. There's actually debates of what is a fruit. So if you ask someone that studies botanical, avocado is a fruit because it has a seed, and so tomato. So that's part of it. They share a lot of the same things. So the most important thing with fruits and vegetables is to find the rainbow. So if you find that your child eats like a vegetable in every color and you rotate them, right? I think that some studies that I did with preschoolers, all they had was carrots and apples. So it's the same fruit and the same vegetable every day. It really doesn't have that much. You're just getting the same nutrients every day, right? And we're talking about getting different things every day. So as long as the child likes some sort of plant-based product, so vegetables or fruits or even some legumes, as you were saying with your child, and you like, orange can be a sweet potato, it can be a mango, or it can be carrot. And the purple can be a grape, or it can be an eggplant. Get a little bit of everything, your child should be okay. Again, it's like fruits because there's more options. But you push towards the healthier than you can.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you very much. You are so smart, of course. Now, Debbie DiMaggio, please go ahead. It's your turn.
Hi, nice to meet you, sweetie. Such a pleasure. Thank you. So I'm at the other end of the spectrum. I'm kind of speaking not from, my kids are grown, and so I'm kind of, the questions are more for people, I'd say 30 and older. I'm in my mid 50s, and my question is I know there's a lot of diets out there. When I was in college, I had gained some weight, and so I ended up learning a certain way to eat from something that was called the Diet Center. And so I followed a very specific, and I always will go back to that, which was very clean eating, no sauces, you know, everything very plain, chicken, vegetables, no breads, you know, chicken or fish, vegetables, a little bit of fruit, and then, you know, restricting calories. So, you know, things have changed in the last, God knows how many years. Is there one diet that would be good for people to follow to lose weight than others, or is it all specific to someone's body type?
You know, I would love to say there's one, and there's not. I always say that the best diet for you is that one that you actually follow, and the best exercise for you is the one that you actually do. So it doesn't matter if swimming is the best exercise. If I can't get myself into a pool, then running is actually a better exercise for me than swimming, right? So the same thing happens with diets. The other trick to know is that almost any diet that is designed for weight loss, if you follow it, you will lose weight. That is, it's a matter of consuming less energy than you use, right? So if you start using more energy than you consume, your body needs to tap into its energy stores, which is your fat tissue. That's kind of the basic way of how weight loss works. Now, the problem is humans are not simple. We're not easy. We like different things, and you know, our bodies react differently. So the diet that worked with you for you 30 years ago might not work for you today, or the other way around, right? So I think there's a couple of things that I look for when I'm thinking about which diet would be good for me, right? So the first signal that I look for is any diet that demonizes a food, that says that food is no, never, it kills you forever, and it's the devil. Or any diet that says you have to eat this thing every day because it's the best thing ever. Those are usually connected to fad diets. So they're diets that are designed to give you fast results, but usually the maintenance is not that easy, or not that, so they're usually not scientifically proven diets. It's usually not a dietitian that looked over the process and designed this diet, right? Is it bad for you? It depends. If you do it for 2 months and you lose weight and you find a way to maintain it, maybe it wasn't a bad idea. If you follow these fad diets for the rest of your life, then you might have some serious issues, right? So that's one of the things I look for. The other thing is, how would I feel if I followed this diet for the rest of my life? And usually your body tells you, like, you feel fear, or you feel anxiety, or you feel like, nah, I could do that. Usually that tells you that that's a diet that is actually, you know, that might be a good diet for you. Diets that produce anxiety might start making you develop some unhealthy relationships with food that are so complicated to get rid of. Like, once you break that seal of having a bad relationship with food, oh my God, getting it back is so hard. So if you want to lose weight, make sure that not only that it's healthy for your body, but that it's healthy for your mind. So for example, a diet that does intermittent fasting, where you fast for, let's say, 8 hours and then you eat and then you fast for 8 hours, right? There are different ways of doing intermittent fasting. Well, if you're someone that already has some signs of restricting and binging, so yo-yo dieters that diet and lose weight and then they gain weight and lose weight and gain weight, right? They're used to this restrictive and binging cycle. And so intermittent fasting is just going to wake up that part of your brain. So you might end up in some unhealthy thought patterns. Someone that doesn't have that binge restrict cycle might actually love doing intermittent fasting and thrive doing that. So, so that's the next thing. Then the next part is, does it generate any friction with my social circle? How does this diet fit with my social life? Not because diets don't have, so you could follow a diet that makes you not drink alcohol, right? But you do have to know before you make that decision that there's going to be a social consequence, and how am I going to deal with that? And it's not, you know, just to make it realistic for yourself so that you don't set yourself up for failure. If you don't consider the social consequences of switching your diet, it's easier to fall off the wagon or not follow the diet, right? Am I at a point in my life where I don't want to sacrifice my social life? Well, then maybe look for another diet. Maybe not intermittent fasting, but counting points like Weight Watchers, for example, where they actually WW now, I think. So that's the next thing. And then, does this diet teach me useful things that I would like to follow for the rest of my life? So as you were saying, you learned something a long time ago. It worked for you, and you can still tap into that and follow that. It's still useful for you, right? So a diet that doesn't give me the skills or the tools to move forward is going to be a diet that is going to generate this effect. You know how people say that I bounce back, right? Like, you know, the bounce back effect. It's not the diet itself. It's the fact that the moment you're off the diet, you go back to what you were doing before. And so you're going to get the body you had before.
Makes sense.
Right, exactly.
So yeah, the important thing is to think about, what am I going to do after? Is this going to help me? Is this new lifestyle and new diet that is going to come with this new body, is that something that I want to maintain for the rest of my life?
Yeah, no, I agree. The fad diets aren't so great. No, that's very helpful. I subscribe to, I eat what makes me feel good. And that's what I write, you know, everybody's different. Everyone's different. Instead of depriving, I eat what I want, of course, not overeat, but you know, you can't, if you say no, 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 then you'll go the opposite way. So I know what makes me feel good. I know if I eat sugar, I'm going to go up and then I'm going to crash. I know how I'll feel if I eat too many carbohydrates, and whatever the food is, it could be anything. It could be a healthy food, but I'll know how I feel. So I kind of eat for how I'm going to feel and how my mood will be. So on another note, what are, just name a few, you don't have to go really long. What are a few great foods to eat, and what are a few foods, and I'm not saying like what bad foods, not like obviously French fries and stuff like that, but what are some good foods and what are some maybe foods that aren't so good for you that maybe are said to be healthy?
The problem with thinking about that is labeling foods as good or bad might be a little triggering when you talk about mental health, which comes with diets a lot. But in general, the less processed foods are going to have qualities that we've found relate to a healthier lifestyle. So an apple versus an apple juice, the apple itself hasn't gone through as much processing. That's what we mean by processed foods, right? Quinoa is the grain that has been boiled versus making the bread takes a process. The more you process a food, the more you play with its ingredients. And what we've found is that industrialized food is designer food. It's designed. And so I did some research on food marketing, and the thing that still haunts me is that if they asked someone, I don't remember the study, but they asked people in marketing to taste an orange and to say how they would market it and if it was a good product or not. And someone said, the problem is that the flavor stays too long in your mouth. If I was going to design a product, I would make the flavor go away fast so you want another one. Right? So it's not that industrialized food is bad. It's just that it's designed to be tasty, to be something you don't get tired of. You get tired of the flavor of chicken, of the flavor of grapes, of the flavor of Whole Foods. You don't get tired of French fries or chips because they're designed so you don't get tired of it.
That's very interesting. That's very true. And a case in point of like when we're in America, there's just too much. You go to the grocery store and everything's processed. When you're in, let's say Italy, because I love Italy, when you're in Europe or, you know, Italy, everything is fresh and so good. And it's hard to find processed food. Here, when I come back from my trips and I try to just get fresh, it's very hard. It doesn't taste as good. And everything's processed. You go into the grocery store and there's a very small section that is not processed. So it's tough here, but
yeah. The healthiest, I think what I've found is a rule of 80% and 20%. So choose whole foods for 80% of your diet and then really enjoy the 20%. Choose the things you really like, right? So instead of a light ice cream, which is a processed food, it might be healthier to choose that 20% out of like a whole milk, rich ice cream that you really enjoy.
Very good point. And then my last question is, are there any vitamins or supplements? Now, again, let's go maybe into the 40s and 50s, any vitamins instead of the prenatal, into the vitamins or supplements that we should be taking or could take for any, for our health?
It really depends on your diet. So I think I would discuss it with my physician and see if there's anything that they think might be missing. The thing to know with supplements is that, at least in the US, they're not regulated. So the FDA doesn't really look into what's in those, in each bottle. So you have to look, just make sure that whichever brand you buy has a third-party testing, just to make sure that if you're paying whatever amount you're paying, you're actually getting the ingredient there, right? They could sell it back.
How do you know if it's had a third-party testing? I've never heard that.
Oh, you go online. So you look at a brand of vitamins, and you can try like third-party tested vitamins.
Oh, okay, okay.
And you can find, it doesn't happen for all of them, but usually the websites themselves, you can see those that have at least gone through some process to let the public know what's in the product. And then the other thing is, it's good to cycle them. So buy a bottle, take it every day, and then for a month or two, skip it. Let your body readjust. So if you want to take the multivitamins, it's better to like, or maybe take it in the weekdays and skip the weekends.
Okay.
So you don't, again, because you don't need every single vitamin every single day.
That's a good point.
So it's just, I think we like the the black and white of the diet, and it doesn't work that way. As dietitians, we always say that whole foods give you all the nutrients you need. So we will always recommend an orange before we tell you to take vitamin C.
Oh, okay.
There are studies showing like there's the synthetic nutrients that you get from vitamin like pills. There are things they don't yet do. Like there are things that just nature just makes better than we do. So if you can from Whole Foods, then Whole Foods. And if not, just make sure you take care of what type of brand you're consuming, and then just rotate.
That's a good point. I never thought about if, you either take it or you forget, you don't take it at all. But that's good to know, maybe 5 days on and a couple days off. And you're right, you don't need all the same vitamins every single day. So that was really helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, and as you can see, we are all different ages and times. So that's why we do this together. We like to see things from different perspectives, And like I myself just wrote a book about how I won the battle against cancer, and in my journey through radiation therapy, my body went through a lot, because I was majorly vegetarian. And then because of the radiation, I had to go heavy into chicken and canned foods. And then next thing I know, I was having, it was difficult. So just was wondering, do you have any advice for people that are going through radiation or chemotherapy, just for us to understand?
The problem is, I don't think we all know how different each cancer is.
Mm-hmm.
Cancer is a disease in and of itself. And then each treatment is different. And then each person is different, right? Mm-hmm. So if you go into treatment and you're already underweight, you're going to have one set of issues compared to someone who goes into treatment when they're obese, or when they have obesity, or have overweight, right? So that's the first thing to think about. The next thing is make sure that you're pushing your diet towards the healthier. Whole foods, less processed foods. There are certain things that you start avoiding that are known carcinogens, not because they will give everyone in the population cancer, but you already have the cancer. So there's no need to add up, right? You already have. So that's the thing that I don't know how to give you an advice for everyone who has cancer. But what I can tell you is that you have to start looking at the problem in terms of life, then function, then aesthetic, right?
Okay.
So, for example, I'm losing a lot of weight. I don't want to eat anything. And the only thing I crave is ice cream. It's the only thing I can eat. It's better to eat ice cream, like 1,000, 2,000 calories out of ice cream, than it is to eat one apple and end up with 80 calories per day, right? In that moment, it's a life-threatening situation. So what is the best thing when it's life-threatening? Just if you come to a point where you're in that stage, whatever you want, at whatever time you want, it doesn't matter if it's 3 in the morning and what you're craving is, I don't know, fried chicken and it's weird. That doesn't matter. The important thing is to honor your body, and it's a life or death situation, right? So you act appropriately. The next is function. So if one of your organs isn't functioning, so if your liver is compromised or your kidneys are compromised, then you have to be very careful about the nutrients you eat, because those parts of your body deal with specific nutrients. And so you do have to make sure that you don't overconsume certain nutrients if there's a part of your body that is compromised. So that's the function, right? And then you look at aesthetics of the diet, right? How can I make it prettier in terms of how can I make it healthier? But that goes after looking at life and function. That's the last step. So it seems like you were a vegetarian, and then there was the life situation where you had to switch into meat and canned foods and things you wouldn't normally do. Mm-hmm. But it was life or death, right? So when you're dealing with a disease like cancer, that's how you start looking at your food decisions. And at the end, the very last thing is it the healthiest or not? Because right now your life is at stake, or the function of your organs is at stake, right? So that's kind of the way I would look at it.
Oh, wow. Okay, wow. You just opened my eyes so big. Thank you very much. Great advice. And I also nutrition, and I learned this obviously through my journey, was water. I never realized how little some people drink water, and I've been a big drink water. So talking about nutrition, is there any amount of water that adults or kids need, or it's just whatever you're thirsty? What do you recommend?
Well, I think we've all heard it's 2 liters of water, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so that calculation comes from eating 2,000 calories. So our body uses 1 milliliter of water to help you digest 1 kilocalorie. Mm-hmm. So that's why they recommend 2,000 milliliters when you eat 2,000 calories. Mm-hmm. But we don't eat 2,000 calories, right? We all eat different things every day. Mm-hmm. So the easiest way, and thankfully hydration is a black or white issue, right? So here's what you do. You go to the bathroom and you look at your pee.
Okay.
If your pee is transparent, like a glass, you've drank too much water, take a break, you're okay. If it's a little bit yellow, kind of like hay, then you're fine. Keep drinking the same amount of water. If it starts getting darker, then you drink more water to get it back to hay. So every time you pee, you know if you need more water or not. Your body tells you if it needs more water or if it doesn't. So if you think about it, when you wake up in the morning, it's a concentrated pee. You wake up kind of dehydrated. That's why a lot of people recommend the moment you wake up, drink a glass of water. And you can see that because you can see your pee.
Awesome.
Because also liquids don't all come from water, right? A lot of food has water in it. Watermelon is like 90% water. And so it doesn't have to come from like a glass of clean, pure water. So that's why it's hard to measure. So just let your pee tell you how much water you need.
Awesome. Well, that is amazing. Thank you again. And just a last question for us. As a professional, do you have any books or go-to magazines that you can recommend for us? Because we know nutrition changes all the time, so we like to be updated. So,
I thought about it, and I don't have the 1 or 2 books that I like. I'm very interested in human behavior. So lately I've been reading things that are about habits and how to change and the relationship with food itself. But I do think that I look for a couple of things. One is this a registered dietitian? So registered dietitians, in my experience in the food nutrition field, we are the least strict ones. Like at the Rudd Center for Food Policy and Obesity, I was one of the only dietitians in the staff. Everyone else was super like, no, only quinoa and avocado. And I was the only one that was like, no, it's okay to have an ice cream. You're not going to. So dietitians tend to have more, you can do this or you can do that, right? There's more flexibility in the way we think about nutrition. Again, look for books that demonize or canonize food. Those are usually not scientifically backed. It's just not a consensus. And so it's better to look at things, at food not as good or as bad. Every food is amazing for what it was designed to do, right? Chips are amazing to make you eat and not stop. So if you are very stressed and depressed and haven't been eating, chips would be a great thing because they'll make you keep consuming them. Fat is amazing to store energy. So if you're going to go on a long hike and you don't know when your next meal is going to be, eat a fatty meal before, it'll last you longer, right? Sugar is amazing to give you energy in the moment. So let's say I'm sitting in my backyard and my kids are playing and I'm lazy. Drink a glass of orange juice, it'll give you a little bit of like sugar and then go burn it and play with your kids, right? So they're not bad. They're just amazing at what they're designed to do. So we just need to make sure we use them for what they're for. And then the next thing is look at books that have counter arguments for themselves. So a book on intermittent fasting that doesn't mention the risk for binging, I would be very careful with that because I do want to know that you understand that every diet has consequences. So the keto diet has worked great for a lot of people, but it has health consequences. And I want to make sure that whichever diet you want to follow, you have all the information to make that decision. And that includes the negatives. Does that mean you don't need to follow keto? No. It just means that every decision has a consequence and expect to know what the consequence will be, right? That's the only thing that I would say in terms of looking at that. Those are the tips that I look for. Is this a good book or a bad book about a diet?
Well, awesome, awesome. Well, I am super, super impressed. I have learned a lot from you. So thank you very much for being here, for giving us your time. You know, we're extremely grateful. And I think that we're gonna let you go, but thank you again for all you have done for us.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime.
Awesome. See you guys.
Thank you, bye.